Hey everyone, hope you guys are enjoying Monster Hunter in whichever fashion you're choosing to play it as. And today I wanted to have a little bit of a discussion topic on the back of some recent news and information that we had regarding the latest Exoprimal collaboration, specifically with Monster Hunter as part of their Season 3 ongoing live DLC roadmap that they just recently revealed. You guys should be able to see that latest trailer where they basically showcase the latest Monster Hunter collaboration as part of Exoprimal. I believe this is going to be dropping into the game on January 18th of early next year, so we're a couple of months away still from that happening, and there's a couple of details that I want to go over, but specifically the discussion topic that I want to have today with you guys, if this is an early look at what we can realistically expect Monster Hunter 6, Generation 6, World 2, Rise to Paradise, whatever they end up calling it. Is this a realistic look at what this game, the next mainline Monster Hunter game, is going to look based off of what we are seeing in Exoprimal right now, which looks fantastic? The reasoning for that is because if you didn't already know, I'm going to be leaving a link in the description below for a Digital Foundry video. I think it's a few months old now, I believe around the time that Exoprimal was ready to come out. But in that video, they do a relatively deep breakdown of Exoprimal and how the game is essentially built right off of the RE engine. Of course, this is Capcom's proprietary game engine where they have been making Resident Evil games now for many years. Of course, the latest Monster Hunter Rise and Sunbreak were built on the RE engine, as we all know, hopefully. And now Exoprimal is their latest iteration on that. It is not Unreal Engine 5, something that is, probably the more common game engine that we have seen for many games. So the RE engine does seem to have a different style, a different look. And based on what we are seeing here with what they're trying to do with Exoprimal, which again, I'm not saying the next mainline Monster Hunter game is going to be like Exoprimal. I'm not saying anything like that at all. I don't want that to get misconfused. What I am talking about here is just the sheer amount of detail, the sheer amount of diffuse colors blending into one another, different metal looks, different rock looks, the way the foliage actually renders. All of these things are really impressive. Now, Exoprimal on its own probably isn't that much of a looker, but the way that they're actually handling just the jungle area that we are seeing here, specifically in some of this gameplay, looks fantastic. And it doesn't necessarily seem all that, I guess, different, if you want to put it that way, from what we can expect to see in the next mainline Monster Hunter game. Now, to be very clear, of course, we don't necessarily know what Capcom is going to do with that game visually. There has been many ongoing discussions whether they should follow up with what Monster Hunter World did and basically do a pseudo World 2. Should they follow up on what Rise did and Sunbreak, were a more simplified gameplay focused experience, but maybe true quote-unquote next-gen players would not necessarily be too happy. It's still all up in arms. It's been a really interesting ongoing discussion, and certainly when I've put out a couple of leaks videos suggesting that the next mainline Monster Hunter game will be appearing on the next Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever they're going to call that thing, a lot of people seem to suggest that it's just going to be another watered down Monster Hunter and it's not going to be the true game. Ultimately, that's not the conversation that I want to have today, but instead focus more on what if this is going to be what the RE engine is going to be looking like going forward, as we see that Rathalos swoop by and basically be fully rendered. And what I would personally argue, if you guys are seeing the gameplay clips right there, that Rathalos is pretty much the same skeletal type that we have seen from Monster Hunter World, but pulled out of those assets, rebuilt, or maybe just transferred over to the RE engine, because we know MT Frameworks was the culprit behind essentially Monster Hunter World and Iceborne. The RE engine was not at the base of core of Monster Hunter World. So if we're already seeing monsters essentially being pulled over into the RE engine with the rendering power and the look that they traditionally had in Monster Hunter World, I think this is pretty much a little bit of a teaser as to what we can potentially be seeing here. I'm not so sure about the Rajang suit or anything along those lines. I think that's more comical. But when we are seeing armors being rendered essentially one-to-one in the same way that they looked in Monster Hunter World, especially as you take a closer look as the Nargacuga armor kind of shows up, and it basically just looks exactly like how it did in World. But again, this is running in a completely game engine. That is the point that I'm trying to drive home here, that I hope people can understand, that Capcom is already transferring assets, porting assets over from the old engine to the new one. We know that they did that with Rise and Sunbreak, and this is just a continuation of that. And now the visuals, because they're not basically being designed specifically to run on the Nintendo Switch, the next, of course, mainline Monster Hunter game is expected to be designed for PlayStation 5, let's say Series X and PC at the base core. You know, we are looking at high fidelity visuals and a really good rendering aspect of just how the game ultimately is going to look. And I think this is just, I 100% see this as a little bit of a teaser and something of a showcase as to what we can expect to see, because there's just ultimately way too much comparisons here that I could be making like side-by-side screenshots that I've seen kind of people put in on social media, and I don't want to take their images or try to take credit for them, so I'm choosing not to do that on my end for this video. But I think it's just something that is relatively obvious. Now, of course, Exoprimal's main focus are the dinosaurs themselves. It's not actual monsters. We are seeing some Velociprey, I believe, right there being rendered as like some of the many monsters that kind of appear. Something of like a replacement for the typical raptors. They're just, you know, fodder animals or whatever that you're fighting, fodder dinosaurs, if you will, but not necessarily, you know, the big ones like we see the Rathalos. So you would imagine that other, I think I've seen people suggest like, why isn't Devil Joe there? He's basically a T-Rex or something like that, right? So, you know, it makes a lot of sense. But at the end of the day, I think what we are seeing here is a little bit of a tease, especially when you see that Rathalos kind of roar, the traditional stuff that we've seen before. Again, those assets straight up seem, to me at the very least, lifted from World, but again, because it's not running on that same engine, now running on the RE engine, and presumably, of course, the next mainline Monster Hunter game will be an RE engine game, because why the hell wouldn't it be when they're already transferring and bringing over assets into this game, both from Rise and Sunbreak and now Exoprimal. It just makes so much sense to see what they are going to be doing going forward. And for me personally, it's just one of those things that I think is very exciting, and I'm not necessarily seeing many people kind of like make this comparison, or at the very least make this a little bit of a connection. I know I've seen some people try to like joke about the fact they take some of the clips from the Rathalos and the Rajang and say, look how Monster Hunter 6 looks, but like they don't really think about it in the real sense of things. But at the end of the day, I think we're looking at something much closer to what we can really expect to see for the next mainline iteration of Monster Hunter. Now, again, as to when we are going to see that, a lot of people are basically putting all of their chips into the table, suggesting that at the Game Awards is when we are going to see it. At the beginning here in November, I put up a video recently talking about how I kind of thought that if they're going to do it, especially if this game is going to be releasing before April of 2024, based off of Capcom's very own words, again, I must repeat this is not my speculation, this is not clickbait or anything along those lines, this is literally what Capcom has said, is that they are going to be releasing a major game before April of 2024. It will not be Dragon's Dogma 2, we know that for a fact. That is a summer 2024 game, that is summers after April, so just simply doesn't work out. And it seems like, at the very least, something Monster Hunter related or Resident Evil related, which wouldn't be them, which wouldn't make a lot of sense, let's just put it that way, unless it's another remake like Code Veronica or something like that. But at the end of the day, it seems most likely that the next mainline Monster Hunter game might be releasing April 2024, and Capcom is ready to reveal something big, hopefully before the end of this year. And a lot of people are pointing at the Game Awards. I've talked about that already. It just doesn't necessarily seem like something that they would do, because how much they like to tease their games. But at the end of the day, we'll just have to wait and see. I do think, though, if you try to take all of the hints and put them together in the most recent Ryosu Sugimoto quote, where he basically spoke about specifically what I'm trying to allude here in this video here, which is he flat out said Monster Hunter World is not the core experience that you should be expecting going forward into the future. It was what they wanted to do at one point or another, but, you know, the franchise moves on and continues. Now we're seeing, of course, assets being put into the RE engine from World. We have seen that time and time again at this point in time, both with Rise, then Sunbreak, now Exoprimal, and then we are looking at something potentially major happening in early 2024 that could be Monster Hunter related based off of Capcom's very own words. So I'm very excited to see that. And I think the teases are leading into something really interesting. And I'm hoping, myself included, that at the Game Awards, we do get to see, at the very least, what this looks like. And if it's close to Exoprimal, then I think a lot of people are going to be happy, because that game does look relatively good for what it is. But of course, the gameplay is what a lot of people are going to be upset about, thinking that, hey, because it looks like Exoprimal is going to play like it, and that's not necessarily the case. But that's about all the little bit of discussion that I want to have with you guys today. Definitely let me know in the comments, what do you think about the look of Exoprimal? Certainly the way that they're handling their roadmap. Some of the armor sets, the Kirin armor set looks really cool. It's like a Neo looking Kirin armor set. It looks great. And ultimately, I just hope Exoprimal has some success. Capcom is certainly putting some weight behind it. I just hope that they continue to support it, and there is a player base there in the future. If you're brand new to my channel, though, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.